Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Heritage Corridor Business Alliance's Power Hour. My name is Dan Mulka. I'm the Executive Director of the HCBA, and today I'm actually the guest as well. We're going to be talking a little bit about digital media. This is going to be a very simplistic webinar. We're going over basics. So if we're talking digital media, social media, websites, things of that nature, if you have a basic familiarity of these, you may want to actually skip this because we're keeping it simple and easy. The goal is for those not familiar with some of the terms to kind of get some of the basic lingo. And then we're going to delve into other topics later in the year. So please, I want to say first, thank you for joining or tuning in. And we're going to kind of go into our presentation. So to give you a little bit about my background about myself, I'm the executive director of the HCBA, as I previously mentioned. My previous background, I was the marketing manager for the Heritage Corridor Convention and Visitors Bureau, Raging Waves Water Park. I was the director of marketing for the Chicago Festival Association. That's the group that produces the Chicago Thanksgiving Parade, that regional, national television, things of that nature. And I started out my professional career as the marketing coordinator in the Chicago Stockyards for a meat processing company called Chicago Meat Authority. In terms of social media certifications, I've been gotten, social media certification and an advanced social advertising certification from Hootsuite. Hootsuite is a company and a tool that's used for scheduling social media posts, whether it's Facebook, things of that nature. So they are experts in the field. They've recently raised their prices, so I don't know if I would recommend them anymore. But we're going to kind of save that for another topic for another day. So as we talk about digital media, where to start? That's going to be a lot of the discussion today. We're going to talk about key tools, vendors, suppliers as well. So as we get started, everything that you do in digital media should start around your website. This is the best way that you're going to tell your story. You're going to use social media to direct people to your website. So in essence, that's how you're going to pull people in to make sure that they get the message that you want to deliver. You may think Facebook is great because it's reaching all these sort of people, and we're going to tell you a little bit how, although that is true, and this should be part of your marketing mix, at the same time, you should not be 100% dependent on Facebook. We're going to go to that in a second. Your website, this is something that you control. You can tell your story, not Mark Zuckerberg. One story that we are going to zoom in here is our friends over at the Cupcakery Bakery. They're uploading, they do cupcakes and different pastries and different things like that. Obviously, because of the name, they're known for cupcakes. But they actually were recently flagged for adult content, and all they did was post pictures of their cupcakes. Now, they made fun of it, jokes of it, but this actually backed them up a little bit. They weren't able to take out ads until it was cleared up. At the same time, they were kind of, Facebook was checking out their posts just to make sure that they weren't posting anything that, everybody couldn't rely on, all because their systems and their algorithms messed up. I've heard of different companies, and I can't share names, but some of these, or even they get flagged for copyright infringement from the NBA, and their post has absolutely nothing to do with basketball because it's all automated, and some things sometimes don't work. So we just want to kind of make sure you want to control your story through your website. Social media is great because you can get out little pieces of your story here and there, but everything's going to depend on what your eventual customer sees. Whether your post, they may only be seeing one out of every 15 posts. So you're not getting the entire story. We're going to talk a little bit about that here as well. Your website, as I mentioned, you can hook them into other marketing avenues. The biggest piece of information that I want you guys to leave here today was, one, I got to have a website just to be out there. And two, your biggest marketing tool is actually an e-newsletter. Getting email addresses and giving great content that people want to read that newsletter, because you're going to get much more reach out of that than you will Facebook if you're not paying for advertising. And as I mentioned before, Facebook, especially if you, I know some folks, their website is their Facebook page because, oh, it's great because, it pops up on Google right away. That's only if they're directly looking for you. Your posts, a typical Facebook post that's unpaid only has the organic reach of 3 to 6% of your following. This all depends on when you view it. Their algorithm slightly adjusts all throughout the year. So that's one reason you don't see a typical standard post. It all affects too is how many people like, how many people subscribe. But if you're only getting 6% of your current followers, you're leaving out 94%. And you're only able to tell pieces of your story. If you think about it, it's like a DVD, but all of a sudden a chapter randomly shows up here. Then, 4 or 5 people don't even see chapters 2 through 6 or things of that nature. You want to make sure you're able to tell the story. So when you use Facebook to bring people and get their interest and bring them to your webpage, you can tell your story. And also to think about it, if you're using your Facebook page as your website, how far is the average user going to scroll down? I haven't been able to find any specific stats on that. But if you're a Facebook user, think about it. How many times do you go to a person's webpage or a Facebook page, and how far do you go down? That's the best example because I know I don't do it once in a blue moon. And if you aren't able to keep your Facebook page updated, how is that going to make you look when somebody searches for you, goes to your website and sees that you haven't posted since 2018? You got to find out what works for you. And if you cannot keep that Facebook page updated, you're going to look out of date, possibly out of business. Now, there's ways around that. We're going to talk a little bit about auto scheduling later. But think about it. If all of a sudden, 2019 and before, that's pre-pandemic. How many businesses are still around compared, when the going out of business percentage has gone exponentially up when folks had COVID, things of that nature. We want to make sure that you're able to provide regular updates, and regular can mean even if it's once a month. It's not the best practice, but at least once a month, people know you're still out there and you're still relevant. Please keep in mind, all this saying, you should have a Facebook page. You should try to regularly keep this up. And I can understand too, if you don't, is that you're just getting into business and maybe you don't have the funds to get that website set up yet. Facebook can give you that little bit of a starting point, but don't rely on it. So if you don't know much about web pages, and if you're listening to this podcast or watching us online, we're targeting this to people who may not know what a web page even is. There's 2 key components to a web page: your domain name and your hosting package. Now, when you think domain name, think about this as your phone number. Your hosting package is like Verizon, AT&T, things of that nature. You can always hang on to that phone number, that domain name, but you can change your hosting package. But your domain name is going to point to whatever that hosting is. You need the host to actually have a computer where your website lives. So as we go on, there are many different types of web services out there, and most of the companies that I'm going to mention here as we go on have these different things. Domain registration. You may hear the term registrar. This is how you get your web address. You can go and type in, I want this website.com. It'll tell you if it's available or if it's not available. And for a fee, if it's available, they will secure that for you. Typically for an annual package, you may get choices up to 5 years, 10 years, 20 years. But that secures it to you. You're in essence renting this because that registrar typically owns it, even though you have all the control of it too. So that's a little bit of a, I shouldn't have said renting it. Hosting services, you're buying computer space, because when you have a website, that is on a computer somewhere out there in the world. Some of the places that we're going to even mention are overseas, Europe, things of that nature. Website builder packages, and this is something I'm going to recommend for those of you entrepreneurs that just don't have the time or the resources to get the ultra fancy website package that you have to maintain or have a computer programmer do. The website builder is almost basically, a way to describe it is, it's templates that you can pop in your photos. You can control the text, but this template does all the fancy coding. HTML, PHP, there's so many different acronyms that I'm not even going to touch. But in essence, if you don't have that time, you don't have that somebody who can maintain a website for you, this is going to be the way to go. E-commerce is another thing too. If you are going to sell online, you got to look for packages that allow you to sell. That is more code, that is more things, security, credit cards, all that good stuff you got to think about. There are people out there that do website programming, designing. They kind of work hand in hand. You know, designing is more of the visual aspect. It all goes through the programming code too. So most programmers design, but there's some ways you can have, you know, if you have particular designers you want to work with, some will work hand in hand. DIY. So if you want to do it yourself, or you have a cousin, brother, nephew, niece, sister, whoever that knows a little bit about computers, you know, you could actually kind of do it yourself. This is a way to save some money, and with packages that already have templates out there and open source coding where other people are designing widgets that you might be able to buy into, you can actually make your own website, and you can actually do decently well with it. We're going to talk a little bit about that here shortly as well. And as I mentioned too, big companies have all these components combined. Now, some website programmers may actually work with, you know, some independent website programmers may actually work with domain registrars, hosting services, kind of on the back end. They're going to manage it for you. You may never know who's doing it because they want you to go through them to control everything and make sure you're not screwing up anything they've already done. So let's talk about domain. Domains are that phone number. You've probably seen commercials for GoDaddy. You're starting to see more and more commercials come into play. I believe I've seen commercials for Namecheap and domain.com. When you're looking for a domain, you do have to pay an annual price. You can see that anywhere from $9 all the way up to $25 per year. Some of these include little bells and whistles that may say, okay, I want private registration, so I can get a domain name and nobody can look up who the actual person that owns it is. That is a thing. That is also something where, you know, for example, you might try to grab 6 or 7 names, kind of various different plays off of your company name. The other thing that you also have to, so excuse me, let me jump back just a second on that. Like for the Heritage Corridor Business Alliance, we have my HCBA, Heritage Corridor Alliance, Heritage Corridor Business Alliance, various different because too, you may start one way and realize, okay, I want to take my branding a little bit different. You may want to have various different email packages that have those domains at the end. We're going to talk about email hopefully soon. So I want you to also check out in our show notes. We're going to include this here. We're not going to hit this on the webinar, but we're going to include a link. Forbes has a list for the best domain registrars of 2021. They went through and kind of rated everything positive and negative. And that kind of giving some of your best bets. When you work typically with a web programmer, they probably have one go-to, and they're going to keep using that one over and over again. They may actually get referral bonuses at the same time. It's a little way for the programmer to make extra $1 here, extra $2 here, things of that nature. So definitely check this out, and kind of some of our other things we're going to mention too have that same thing. Hosting, you can see a lot of the same names on here, but we also have an article as well that talks a little bit about, this is actually from CNET and the best web hosting. I found the 2022 article already for the year. This is also going to talk to you about your pricing, and you may get some packages as cheap as $4 or $5 a month. The thing you have to look into on all of these are, okay, are you restricted in the amount of bandwidth? And so in essence, if you have something viral that blows up and millions of people are coming to your website, which you think is great, but then you got to pay for all of that traffic. Some of these you may pay $9, $10, a little bit more than that $5 a month per month hosting fee, but that also takes out that I guess is a good problem to have. It all depends on the situation, but you don't have to worry about paying for traffic. There are certain things you have to look at reliability stats. You don't want, if a host goes down that has that computer that has your website accidentally gets powered down or is reset, you don't want traffic bouncing. And most hosting packages this year, 99.9% uptime. That just kind of gives them a little chance to update when they need to. Builder packages. So Squarespace, GoDaddy, Ionos, Weebly, there's several. And this also too is, these builder packages sometimes actually include your domain name or your hosting. So we have another article from Forbes that's going to tell you a little bit more about each different one and kind of what they provide, what they don't provide. As you go on there, check out the Forbes article that we posted. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Squarespace. This is one of these builder packages that's out there. We're showing on the screen right now. This is LamontDowntown.com. This is a site that's run by the Village, and they use Squarespace. That kind of gives them some great tools, keeps it simple for them to manage. You're going to also see the key component of the website is photography. Photography. Now you may take video and things of that nature, but photography is going to far surpass any fancy design, logo, things of that nature, because you want to grasp them into that story. And the quickest way that someone to learn a story is to visually see it. We're going to also, as we speak, we're going to kind of take a look a little bit at squarespace.com. And my video capture isn't working perfectly, so thank you for those bearing with me on the webinar. We are going to re-release this as soon as we can with all the graphics embedded. So the nice thing about builder packages is you can tend to add on different features. And whether you're starting out, you're just getting your name out there, this is what most of you are going to be. You just want to make a nice site that looks pretty, that works. Easy to do. If you're a retail component, or maybe you're a B2B company that sells product and you want to take that online, you're going to be able to kind of, up your package to include e-commerce. And maybe not. Maybe you just want to show it off in the catalog, and there's templates all about where you can actually do that with Squarespace. I own all these different packages. Another great thing, appointments. If you are in any field where you have to make an appointment, dentistry, you could do this, counseling, physical therapy, you could actually make it where people can log in and schedule their appointments. And there's templates based on your actual business as well, restaurants and hospitality. Other things you can look into too, most of these places also have email or some other tool as well. This is going to be something where you may choose to go through your website provider, or you may look at a constant contact, a vertical response, some of those as well. And we're going to talk a little bit about that here shortly. So do it yourself. I mentioned that this is an open source code content management system. What does that mean? Basically, it's a series of templates, but programmers can actually see some of the code and make things to complement your website. For example, when we talk a little bit about mylhgguide.com, and thank you to mylhgguide.com for sponsoring this video. If you guys haven't checked this out, this is the site you definitely want to look at when if you live or if you're visiting the Lamont and Homer Glen area. If you're looking for events, if you're looking for what's going on, if you're looking to find, especially accountants, dentists, things of that nature, you can go to this website and be up to date on everything as well. All of our Heritage Quarter Business Alliance members are featured on this site, as well as we keep it up to date with events, deals, things that are going on, job posts. So remember, when you check this out, check out mylhg.com. And this is actually a WordPress site that I built myself. 39.5% of the entire internet is based on WordPress sites. So this is a powerful, many exponential number of programmers that are working together, and it's free. Now, keep in mind, you have to have a place to host it. And that's what we do. I actually use ionos.com for our hosting and our domain names to host our WordPress site. You upload a file, you do a couple things, you open it up, and then you're able to start programming. Now, if you are, for most of our audience, this may be a little bit above your head, but if you have a little bit of computer knowledge and we're going to go over creating a WordPress site, this might be up your alley. Let alone too, if you have a friend or anybody that can set you up to get to the point where you can take control of just the photos and what the text is and things of that nature, this may save you a few bucks in the line. Another content management system that's out there is Drupal. From my personal experience, and now keep in mind, it's like you asking somebody, do you like Nike, do you like Reebok, do you like Adidas? I'm a WordPress guy. All of these solutions have themes, plugins, widgets that have been made by other people that can kind of take your website to the next level. mylhgguide.com has a directory program on there, and that's how you click on the different links and get different menu options, because hard coding that would not be a fun job. But if you can pay, and we pay an annual membership fee for this, somebody's already done that work for you, and you save me a bunch of time. And we have to consider, here at the HCBA, I'm a full-time employee. We have one part-time employee. That's it. So there might be some times where you want to pay for that. And on the screen too, the Heritage Quarter Business Alliance main page. This is actually another WordPress site, and it's actually partially subcontracted through the company that produces our Content Relationship Manager, CRM. So we had some templates that we had to choose through, and this is kind of steps before I came on board. So you can kind of see it's very similar. If you have the time, you can go crazy with these sites and create some amazing things. So let's talk about your small business. If you're asking, you walk up to me and say, Dan, I am going to be the one doing our website. I don't have the time to do it. What should I do? I would look into a builder like Squarespace, Wix. Those are a couple of the most popular ones that are out there. They make it very plug and play. The technical knowledge you don't need that much. If you can surf the internet, you can probably do this. What's going to make your website look great? Photography. And that's going to be a subject for another time. There's a few things where you may want to consider WordPress. If there's somebody you could delegate a website to that has some knowledge, I'm saying some, it doesn't have to be, you don't need a computer programmer. You just need some. You might want to think about WordPress. WordPress is going to give you the chance to further kind of expand what your website can do. If you're looking for a website to be just a small place that maybe has 6 or 7 or 8 pages, you can probably go towards the builder route. But if you are looking to definitely expand what your website can do, think about WordPress. It's going to take you a little bit longer to get started, but that's going to give you more flexibility, and you don't have to wait for Squarespace, Ionos, Wix to develop something for you. And when you're going through this website and talking about domains, it makes sense to get an email package as well. And this may only cost a few bucks. It all depends on who you're going through. This is going to actually be one of those things where you could get a free website, or excuse me, free email. You could go to a Gmail and create mygreatbusiness@gmail.com. But think about when you expand. We hope every one of you can expand. You get multiple employees. You want that consistency and branding where you walk up to me and say, oh, okay, so your email's Dan. I know everybody's email extension is myhcba.com. There's a little bit of that. If you use your own personal email, you got to keep those personal emails and those business emails separate. Otherwise, you may go insane. Especially when you start getting into the social media field, because you're going to get notes of, hey, here's all your Facebook updates. And hey, somebody tweeted you here. And keep it simple. Get different things. Get an email package as well. You might be able to create social@yourwebsite.com, marketing@yourwebsite.com, accounting at your website. You can keep things separate. And I probably have mentioned this several times during this presentation. Digital media, one of your biggest marketing tools that you're going to have access to is your email list. And yes, this does require a little bit of work, but if you can start getting emails, and it may be simpler than you think, you're going to have a better chance of reaching an audience, especially if you're taking online orders. You have their email address. You've seen those boxes. Click here to receive information from our company. Have you registered to win something at a company? Odds are they ask for your email address. That's why they're putting out this award for you, or this packet prize for you, a chance to win, is because I want you to get on my email. You'll probably see an email spot and check here to receive. This is all part of, and two, you guys are probably thinking, yeah, I get a ton of emails. But when you look at the stats, and it is depending on your industry, you'll probably see a 15 to 30% average open rate for your emails. Some of the reasons why, it's not 100%, and some of you, as you start, you may see the numbers that high. People might change email addresses, especially if they're using a work email. If they get laid off, if they go to a different job, they have a new email address. So when you talk about Facebook organic impressions, when you hear organic, that's a fancy word for unpaid. You might see 3 to 6% of what your following is. This is once you're kind of up and running and you have some followers going, because as you start, you're only going to have 2 followers, 3 followers, 4 followers, so the percentages are going to be a little bit wacky. Now, out of that 3 to 6%, half of those may actually be new impressions, and that is why we always say you want to have a Facebook page. As much as I'm trashing Facebook, you want to have a Facebook page. Now, as that email list gets bigger and bigger, you can actually go find a mass emailing system such as Constant Contact, MailChimp. These systems are there to blast your marketing message out there in a controlled environment that may not trip any email servers or get you blacklisted or spammed. There is quite a bit of strategy behind that, and it may take, for example, I've worked for companies where we've had 10,000 plus emails, and it may take a half an hour to an hour to get all those emails sent. It's done on purpose. You never want to kind of depend on I need you to come in by this afternoon message in your blast emails, because some of those people may not read your message for a day, 2 days. We see sometimes up to a week and a half, people are still clicking on messages that, go figure. With these mass email systems, your pricing scales as you grow. So, you may have a certain monthly price until you hit the 1,000 email subscriber mark, 2,500, 10,000, different numbers like that. So this actually, as you grow your business, or when you start your business, they try to keep your costs small, because nobody has that kind of money to spend out of the gate, and you have no email addresses, unless you're Elon Musk or anything like that. Social media, and the common question is, what platform should I be on? Should I be on them all? Real world, you don't have time to be on them all. That's one of the reasons you're watching this webinar is I don't have the time. Digital Media 101, tell me what I should do. A lot of people will give you a lot of different advice, and it all depends on your industry at the same time. Personally, you're asking Dan, should be on Facebook and Instagram. Why am I saying two, not just saying one? Facebook, or Meta, which is the name of the kind of the holding company that used to be Facebook and Zuckerberg. Anyway, Meta owns Facebook, they own Instagram, and now it's taken them how long to go this route, but they've created an interface that allows you to post to both Facebook and Instagram. If you ask somebody in digital social media, working as a profession, big salary sort of thing, the true goal is to have different marketing messages on any platform that you have. This is because, you're hoping somebody follows you on Facebook and Instagram and Twitter and Pinterest, and I don't even know if MySpace is still around, but I always joke about MySpace. If they follow you everywhere, they may see redundant messaging. So, hey, give them different messages. You're a small business owner, you don't have time. So, you can actually kind of post to both Facebook and Instagram on the same time via Meta Business Suite. There's some other programs that are out there too that can do the same kind of similar thing. These are pay options, and we're going to go through some of those in another webinar. But with Meta Business Suite, you can hit the two most popular social media accounts, Facebook and Instagram. Now think about it too. You're busy, you don't have the time, you don't want to stop and keep pictures. You are actually able to pre-program your posts. Just think about it. If you could sit down for a week, I'm going to use an example of a restaurant. You know what specials you may have of the week. You know when you want to post about those. You might want to throw a couple general post announcements as well. Take an hour a week. Sit down, think about when you want to populate those. You can change some of the messaging up a little bit. Now remember too, with Instagram, you have to have a photo or a movie, video, things of that nature. And the key component of Instagram is that visual component. So your visual has to be key. It's the same for Facebook, but sometimes you can actually get away with text-only messages on Facebook and have that. If you're getting a reaction, that may actually still get as much reach as possible too. You want Facebook more is you want to vary your messages. Instagram, you got to be visual. So think about it, pre-program. Don't go 100% crazy because you don't want to be considered a spammer via Instagram or Facebook. That may hurt your posts. But remember too, as you're thinking about it, content is king. Content, whether it's a story or a visual photo, it allows you to tell that little portion of a story of your overall story. But it's not always it's advertising without feeling like it's advertising. If you talk about, oh, we were so excited to have so-and-so's group here for a birthday party and check out, they're seeing happy people in the Facebook party. That subliminal message of, okay, this restaurant hosts birthday parties and it looks like people are having fun. Advertising without advertising. People know when they're being advertised to, but content, when done properly, gives you a chance to advertise and be entertaining or interesting. So there's other social media too, but remember, before you go crazy and join every social media platform out there, what can you keep current on? And I mentioned earlier in the podcast, current, regular doesn't mean every day, every other day. If you can do it, great, especially if you have that engaging content where people want to see your stuff every day. But you're a small business owner, you don't have a lot of time, so you got to keep current and regular and habitually keep posting. So just remember that. Some industries, and haven't mentioned this until now, Pinterest actually sees some of the best click-through rates when done well. So that's something to think about too. I've done it for travel companies. I've done it for restaurants. If you have products or things that can be turned into recipes or project builds. I'm a woodworker, so I use Pinterest just to get ideas of what to build. It's not always a female thing, and that's kind of the perception of that is female heavy, and the stats indicate that Pinterest is one more of the female heavy social networks out there. But males are out there too. And you'd be surprised, most Facebook accounts, just in the general, most of the followers are female. It's not including specific sites, things of that nature. That's your target market sometimes. Although this is a power hour, it looks like I'm at the 37-minute mark, and no questions coming up on the board. So I'll tell you a little bit about some of the upcoming webinar topics that I'll be going through. More of an in-depth deep dive. So that way, if we're hitting up specific topics that you're interested in, make sure you look out for these webinars, because we'll actually set up social media. We'll also set up websites, blast emails, so that way you can see some of the process as you're going through it. So as I mentioned, website, social media blast tool. And if there's a topic that you want to see, that you have questions about, or if you have any questions about what we talked about today, best way to reach me, dan@myhcba.com. You can always call me 630-257-5997. And thank you so much for tuning in to the Power Hour. Today we're calling it the Power 38 Minutes. Thank you so much for tuning in. You always reach out if you have any questions, if you have any follow-up and want to be connected to one of our speakers. And for our Heritage Corridor Business Alliance members, remember that you can actually teach a webinar. Reach out to me at some of that content info I provided. And two, we want to thank our sponsor of the day, mylhgguide.com, the definitive guide for living in Lamont and Homer Glen. So definitely check that out when you're in need of car repair, dentistry, where to go eat, and you want to know what's going on the weekend, check out mylhgguide.com. This is the best place for you to check out, and tell a friend. We're trying to help this site grow bigger and better, and the way we do that is by getting more followers to check out the page. Once again, my name is Dan Mulka with the Heritage Corridor Business Alliance. Thanks for sticking with me here for the HCBA Power Hour. We'll see you again next time. Have a great day.